Yo, what's up guys? Osco Dan here, and in this video I'm going to be going in depth of what a silver era physique is. I'm going to go in depth about characteristics and give you some examples. With that being said, let's get started. Alright, so number one, a silver era physique is symmetrical. You've got wide shoulders, big forearms, wide lats, a small waist, and big calves. Now you're probably wondering, why these muscles? Alright, so I learned from Frank Zane in an interview that he talked about. Larry Scott told him, if you want to achieve what they call symmetry, work the peripheral muscles, the shoulders, the forearms, the lats, the small waist, the calves. This will give you a symmetrical look. Not just alone, think about this. If you've ever read like a Men's Fitness magazine, they talk about, like, you probably see a headline that says, build that V-taper that women love, you know? What are they going to talk about? They're going to talk about the most basic illusion that you could create with just your shoulders and your lats. They probably give you some bullshit program that says, you know, do pull-ups, some dumbbell rows, some military press, and maybe some like lateral raises, and do that maybe 2 times a week. I don't know, whatever. And what this is gonna do is create a basic illusion that gives you that V taper. If you just think about it, wide shoulder. If you ever seen a man in a t-shirt, think wide shoulders and wide lats. What type of effect is that gonna give to his waistline? It's gonna make it look smaller, right? Now, if you throw in some forearms and you throw in some big calves, it's gonna give you that type of a superhero look. You ever seen like Superman on a magazine or something? They have this type of look. He's got the big upper body, the big legs, probably the big calves. Not like Mr. Incredible, but like you know what I'm talking about, like a Superman. If you ever seen like a Superman figure, and it's like super emphasized that he's got big calves, wide shoulders, a V taper of a body. That's basically what this is, sort of. All right, so now let's move on to the next characteristic. A silver era physique is symmetrical. You got Jack Dillinger on the left hand side, and you got who the hell, I don't know who he is, on the right hand side. And I know one thing I'm gonna say is that it could be the angle, the way they're flexing, but I mean I've seen enough silver era bodybuilders and enough regular bodybuilders to know that they have this issue this guy has on the right. His thighs are too big to match his calves. I've seen so many bodybuilders on stage, and they always have this issue. They have like massive quads, but they have these small calves. It's odd. I don't like it. But you got Jack Dillinger on the left hand side with his massive calf. I think this is him in a bulk state, but he's got some massive calves, and they don't overpower his thighs. Like I said, it could be the angle, but a lot of the silver era bodybuilders were very proportional. Like Steve Reeves was very proportional. He had some nice legs to match his upper body. It wasn't the other way around. They didn't have this massive upper body and these small legs. I mean, I'm not saying that the bodybuilders of today have a massive upper body and some small legs, but they usually have this issue this guy has on the right hand side. The thighs are too big to match the calves. All right, so now let's move on to the next characteristic. A silver era physique is aesthetic. You got Steve Reeves, who looks like a Greek god, and you got Phil Heath, who looks like Goro from Mortal Kombat. Am I right? I mean, look at Phil Heath, man. That guy looks like Goro from Mortal Kombat. Look at Steve Reeves, man. He looks like an Adonis, like a Greek god, especially with that hair, so handsome. But yeah, silver era physique is aesthetic. It's not overly done. It's not grotesque. It's a physique that people like looking at. It's aesthetically pleasing to the eye. You know, I think I've told this story so many times, but I've heard the story about Steve Reeves, how he walked down the beach and he had a whole crowd of people following him. I mean, they followed him and they're like, wow, I would love to have a body like that. Or something like Charles Atlas, and then that kind of inspired people to start working out too. But excuse me. Phil Heath, when he walks down the beach, people give him like they probably give him weird looks. They're like, damn, look at that guy's huge. But then I don't think anybody really says I want to look like that. They probably talk about him. Someone's like, damn, would you want to be that big? He's like, nah, that's too big. That's what everybody's gonna say. They're gonna be like, that's too big. But when they look at Steve Reeves, they're like, oh, that's what I want to look like. I want to look like that guy. And that's what a lot of the guys look like. They were very aesthetic. They look like Greek gods. Reg Park, Jack Dillinger, George Eiferman, Alan Steffen, Clarence Ross, Steve Reeves. These guys all look like Greek gods. You name some of the top bodybuilders today, they don't look anything close to like this. I'm talking about Big Ramy. That guy's massive, man. He does. Ronnie Winkler, no, dude. These guys are Phil Heath, Kai Green. Our current Mr. Olympia is not that bad, but he's pretty aesthetic. But guys like those, the guys I just named, are like they're not really aesthetic. No one really wants to look like that. I don't like that type of look. But a silver era physique is definitely aesthetic. All right, so let's move on to the next and last characteristic. A silver era physique is healthy. This is the most important characteristic. You got Reg Park at 60 years old on the left, and he looks good for 60. Anyways, and you got Momo Benaziza, who died in his hotel room, died at 33 years old. Damn, dude, I'm 21. I'm 21 years old. That's like a couple. That's like a couple years from now. That's a short life. I mean, he died because of a steroid he took that made him lose water fast or something like that. Died in his hotel room post show. That's so sad. I mean, like Lieber Colbert says, they're playing Russian roulette. You know, I think it's ironic that people they take steroids, but they don't really understand the consequences that really come from them, like the concrete consequences that come from it. They think it's kind of like when people drink and drive, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna drink," and they're like, "Are you okay to drive?" He's like, "Yeah, don't worry, I probably won't get caught. I never do," and they get caught. Like they think the same thing with steroids. They're like, "Oh, I'm taking steroids," and like, "Hey, man, don't you think you're gonna hurt yourself or like in a couple years?" And like, "Nah, that probably won't happen to me. I'm doing everything's going fine." And then something happens. They're not God. They don't know what's gonna happen. They don't own the universe. They don't know the universe. They don't know what's gonna go on today, the next minute, the next day. Something can happen to you tomorrow. Maybe not today, not tomorrow. Maybe next year. Maybe 10 years. You don't know that. I like how people just just play it out like Russian, like they're just guessing it. They're just like, oh, I'm gonna be okay. Arnold post competition had a lot of issues, you know, and that's just the consequences you receive from steroids. I do believe like guys like Reg Park and Steve Reeves were natural because there's a lot of people that there's like not a finite amount, but like there are a lot of people that just have great genetics. I know it's hard to like not process it, but understand that somebody can gain muscle and lose fat faster than you. Just because they can doesn't mean they're on steroids. Like I've seen many people like on Instagram and they're like so juicy looking, but they're natural. They just have good genetics. It's kind of like the most generic thing someone's gonna say is like, "Oh, he's only buff because he's black." I mean, I agree with that. It's just genetics, and I'm not stereotyping. It's true. Black people are just naturally more athletic and muscular. Basketball, they're just naturally taller. You know, Yao Ming is like the only Asian I really know in basketball. There's a lot of like black people in football too. They're just strong dudes, big dudes, faster, bigger, stronger. I mean, it's just genetics. It's not that hard to understand. But yeah, being healthy is the most important thing in a silver era physique. They train for their health and for good looks. And the competing was another side thing, for fun. Now it's like we want to look good and we want to win. It's not like they care about their health that much because they're doing so many steroid cocktails and they're doing all these things just to win a competition. So like it's just crazy how the sport went from like, oh yeah, let's get healthy, let's lose weight, to like, oh, I just need to win a competition. I gotta win that Olympia. I'll do whatever it takes, and they do whatever it takes. And in a couple of years, in years, they find out they have to get a kidney transplant or like a heart transplant or something like that. Something radical because they weren't expecting it to happen to them, and it did. So yeah, that is the most important aspect of a silver era physique. Healthy. That's what they trained for back then, for the health. Cool. So I believe that's a little bit of a rant, but yeah, most important aspect. So with that being said, so if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. I'm Old School Dan. I'm gone. Peace.